All right, here we go. Greetings. My name is Camia. I'm the creator of New Moni, which will be at Chopin Theatre today at 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. So if you're in Chicago, it'd be fun for you to come. Thank you to Blair Thomas for inviting me to this festival and to everyone who has helped out, especially Paulette. I would also like to just mention that in 2013, I interned with Basil Twist and I watched the first edition of Chimpanzee at Labapalooza. So to be in a panel with you two is an honor. All right, let's begin. My name is Maria Camia. I'm a Filipino-American theater artist. My art is more about a global or a theme within spiritual theater, fashion, and visual art. This is a photo from New Moni. I will talk about the world I am creating and how I use art to empower all. Next slide, please. So back in ninth grade English class, instead of paying attention, I was dreaming about being known just by one name, like Picasso. So then I decided to take my first name and last name, take out the A in the first name and the I in the last, and put it together. And I made my name into MARICAMA. And then this was the time when Instagram was just being made and MARICAMA was already taken. So then I had to just make it the MARICAMA. But then it looked like them Aricama, and I wanted to know who they were. Who are they? And if you see in this page, my little sketchbook on the right-hand side, they are 20 different worlds, or you could say 20 different planets, all by moving all the letters, and the galaxy would be Maricama. Next slide, please. I feel like my work channels something beyond me. It is of a higher dimension. I realize, or I see, that a lot of the sci-fi movies or entertainment is very dystopian, and I am curious on how to bring utopia, how to bring good vibrations to all, and how to do that through the mechanisms of visual entertainment. These are the covers of the comics I made of Aricama. In the Aricama comic, it has words that just say, "We are one, there is enough, and practice play." And then how do I do this? I do this by these two flower humanoids named Ari and Kama. In the mythology, the mother is human and the father is a flower. And within these two beings, they create this world of practice, play, and healing. Yes, let's move forward, please. And with Ari and Kama, these two characters, they're on my shirt. I feel like within myself, if anyone is into astrology, I have a Libra sun and then Aries moon and rising, which are opposite signs. So within my own self, I feel like two different beings. Sometimes I just want to be a pioneer and lead and just do what I need to do, take charge. But I also think I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, or I just want to be nice and harmony. So how do I balance that within myself? And I feel that I am influenced by Bert and Ernie. These two characters are orange and yellow. I'm also influenced by Popolva, the hero twins. I love this story. These two twins go down to the underworld and defeat the gods by being tricksters, by being playful, liberating by being playful. And I feel like instead of this very like aggressive, forceful dictatorship, there's a way to flourish kind of like in a fun way, using fun to the advantage. Okay, I'm looking at my notes. All right, next slide, please. I will talk about the mythology of Aricama. I always think about how are things the way they are. I like to think about past lives. If I'm this way, I was probably the opposite in a different life. In Aricama, this is the toy theater scene of Pneumonia, where they talk about how women were forced to take classes on how to get a flower to fall in love with you. This is parallel to colonization of the Philippines, when the Spaniards came over, and they would say that the mestiza child, the mixed child, would be more beautiful, but at what cost is that? My dad told me a story about a woman who climbs to the top of a tower and then jumps off when she's pregnant, and jumps off because it wasn't consented. And then these two women would say, but her child would have been beautiful. And then, yes, so like bridging these two things in my ancestry and putting it into this mythology. Also in this mythology, we eat potatoes, but in this world, potatoes ate us, which is why we eat them now. Or the flowers were with humans, and then the bees got jealous, but then they killed the flower humanoids. So then now the bees, their karma is to work for us. So just like seeing everything as a whole, like yes, they're seeing it as a whole. All right, next slide, please. I would like to talk about how I use my art. These are drawings of crystal castles in Aricama. They represent, like the blue represents the throat, the first eye or third eye with the purple, and the pink for the crown chakra. Usually for me, the visual drawings will be my blueprints for the theater. I always want to see how I can use art to be like a crystal. Like crystals have very high vibrations. I see everything more as energy than object. Like what energy does this object hold? As our eyes do not see everything. We don't see frequency of like microwaves or X-rays. So what is that? What is beyond? And how can I use that intention within what we already do to empower all individuals? Next slide, please. So you can see in this next slide that we have turned the crystal castle into a costume. This is the great grandmother, and she has tricks. Oh, should I say this? Just come to the show, come to the show, come to the show. And also these castles are part of, next slide, please. The clothes I like to design. I also learn Reiki. I like to imbue all my clothes with this energy. So on top of the intention of creating it, I also send good vibes to everyone who purchases or wears or even sees any of these items. Next slide, please. Oh, there it is. It's very colorful. I want individuals to stand out. Children shouldn't be the only ones wearing bright clothes, and then we move to all dark colors. Oh no. We can sustain the joy throughout our entire living. Next slide, please. In the next slide, you will see a mural that I had the opportunity to do at George Mason University. I am concerned with advertisement, always trying to make us feel less than, and they pull us out of our body and just like leading us like a little horse with a carrot. I want people to know that it's all within, it is all in them. And on the top of this, it says, I intend a beautiful, loving, wonderful, magnificent, brilliant, healing day. So these two characters are also in New Moni. You'll see them today. I'm going to assume you're all are coming. So this is the portal entrance to Aricama. You leave all of your baggage behind, and then you can enter. Next slide, please. Alongside the visual Gestalt theater, I am very aware that it can be difficult to be joyous. I wouldn't say that I intend my work to just be happy and bypassing the feelings and the hurt and the trauma. I am aware that those do exist. So I can also get very soft and quiet and gentle with a one-on-one interaction of facilitating a client into their subconscious mind to see and to understand, not to see, but to understand why things happen the way they are, and to know that they are not a victim, and to release those energies that are built up in the body. Because when those energies are held, then it turns into a physical manifestation. So to take that out and to intend something better. So if they have a hurt in their heart, they can take it out. What would you like? Love, more self-love. And then you would put that into the body. I could talk about, you can directly contact me if you want to learn more about that. Next slide, please. So with my work, I am also very passionate about Asian and POC, LGBTQ representation. I was a very quiet child as a kid, and I found how to talk eventually. But instead of just showing face, I want to be writing for, say, my people, writing for them, and not only any writing, but roles that will empower them in their lives. Like, I am abundant, we are abundant. Like, these are the words that I want to put out. And here are some costumes. This is also a photo from New Moni when the Aricamians are so passionately in love with the main character, Alima's heart, because she's so strong. And then these are Aricama costumes. Next slide, please, that are reflective of these next drawings you will see here. I don't see these characters in my head, they just channel through me. And this is the Aricama ceremony at the top. And these are separate drawings that I combined. Everything really is like the hands, like healing with their hands, imagining gold light coming out of your hands. When you have a hurt, you rub it to heal it. Next slide, please. So it's, oh, here's another shirt. See, everything is connected. I like it all connected, and I'm learning how to bridge it all together. I am bridging the, say, indigenous ancestry with galactic space sci-fi powers to infuse, to bring into the present moment. Again, to empower. I will keep saying that word. All right, next slide, please. I will now talk about two past productions that I have been a part of, or that I made. Next slide, please. This next one is called Aricama, A Galactic Landing. This one is just set in Aricama. The first iteration when you are born on Aricama is this little bucket head down here on the bottom. The dad gave birth in a water, and then the puppet is the girl that's been born. I see it as, I'm always obsessed with mindset and what you keep in the mind, the rooms of the mind. Are you keeping is there a lot of trash in there? Do you need to recycle it? You need to get it out? Or are there flowers? Is it a beautiful garden growing? How can we do more of that? Beautiful gardens in the head, and making that visual, since we have learned to become so trusting on what we see more than an internal like intuition. Like we learn to trust more of the outside. Next slide, please. Oh, and then also that top part is them preparing for a life on Earth. This is the transmutation station. which was a solo show I did at their Lourdes. And the young Aricamian is giving thanks and gratitude to her ancestors at this little shrine. And at the bottom, she has captured an entity that has attached to her body. If you are open-minded to think about this, apparently what I've learned through hypnosis training is that we are all just energy. And then there are some souls that have passed away like immediately, and they don't know that they have passed. So they are attracted to specific people's light, and they can attach to you and say like, live behind your ear. Oh, one more. Okay. They can live behind your ear, and then they can say, don't do that. It's not safe. You have to do something. You have to do something safe. So then if you hear something in your mind, it could be just someone else's thought. Next slide, please. That is it. That is it. And if you would like to learn more about me, you can visit my website, maricama.com. Follow me on Instagram, the Maricama, or consider joining the Aricama Liberation Nation Cooperation Community at my patreon.com/Maricama. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Maria. That was inspiring and beautiful. At this point in the live stream, we would like to ask the audience members who are with us in the Zoom room to open your cameras if you like, so that we will be able to see your lovely faces. We appreciate this technology for allowing us to meet virtually under the difficult constraints of the pandemic. And we would like to reproduce as much as possible the experience of sharing time together. So if you would open your cameras, then we can see each other. If you would like to pose a question, you will be able to raise your hand if you are in the Zoom room by looking at the bottom of your screen, and on the reaction button, there's a number of icons. Do we have a separate raise hand in this one? No. Yes, so you can raise a hand and then we'll be able to see it, and people will alert me and I will call you out so that you can open your mic then, and we can spotlight you and you'll be able to pose your question. If you are not with us in the Zoom room, or if you are shy or you are in your pajamas with your hair all standing on end and you don't want to be seen on camera, then you can pose your question in the chat. You can put it in the Zoom chat, or if you are part of our audience on live stream, you can put your questions in the chat there. And once again, we will be collecting those and I will be notified of them, and we will pose them as we have time and space. So as the moderator, I have the privilege of asking the first question. And so I'm just going to pose this and go down the line in the same order that the panelists presented to see what their answers are. So hopefully this is a softball. The first question is, how would you approach presenting your character's interior mindset if you could not use objects? How would you approach presenting your character's interior mindset if you could not use objects? So Maria, I put you on the hot spot, and I hope that you will not be too disturbed with me for doing that.
Not too hot, it's mild. It's not too hot. I would say it would all just be through sound. I write the music to my stuff, so it would be, I would just do it. Yeah, I would do it with a different frequency. It's all vibration. It's all frequency of color. Just transcend that just to the ears.
Okay, thank you so much. That's a novel approach that I wouldn't have thought of, but that's really interesting. Great. So next, Nick.
That's not a softball question. That's a really cool, challenging question. I like it a lot. But honestly, the first thing that came to mind was the soundscape, but I think that may just be because chimpanzee relies so heavily on one to provide both like diegetic, real world sounds and also something more internal. But the next thing that came to mind was like some kind of immersive experience where an audience member was the chimpanzee, something with like a lot of tactile stuff and smell. Maybe something with VR.
That's also very fascinating. All right, then we go to Marcian.
I think I would do the radio play version of the show. I'm really good at worrying, and I was worried that the stuff wouldn't get delivered. So I was like, in case that happens, I suppose I could do it naked with nothing, but I wouldn't want to. And none of the inanimate objects in the performance actually speak. It's all through Andrea and her reactions to them. There is a flashback for the blanket in the sweatshop that it was made in, and that's visual, but other than that, like none of the objects like directly talk. So it's interpreted through the humans.
Okay, great. Okay, and then Basil, how would you take up this challenge?
Well,
you could have done the show here, see?
oh yeah. Well, there is an incredible soundscape for the show, and I was lucky to work with this amazing shamisen player, Yumiko Tanaka, who created it with me. So again, yeah, I'm with most of the panelists. I would do a sound. There's, the sound is important, and I do work with music a lot, and I feel like puppetry, is really even more akin to dance than kind of traditional drama in its frequent relationship with music, and I know like the soundscape in chimpanzee is like one of the greatest soundscapes. Like it's magnificent, and it really does help convey, really supports the beautiful puppetry. And so that's what I would say too, the music, the sound.
Shout out to Kate Marvin and Avery Orbit.
Oh, okay, yes. Okay, thank you, panelists, for your thoughtful, imaginative responses to the first question. The second one is a little heavier. So in a paper presented in 2017 at an adult education research conference, Professor Kathleen Taylor of St. Mary's College notes that though Descartes' perspective continues to profoundly affect Western thought, especially in terms of what we believe about knowledge, thinking, and reasoning, new research on how the brain learns foregrounds the role of emotions, and emotions are essentially an expression of the body. So let me now frame where I'm going with this. Taylor's conclusions derive from current neuroscience research that contradicts Descartes' assertions that the mind is distinct from the body. He's the I think, therefore I am guy, if that's all you remember from philosophy class. So Descartes was writing at a time when the Atlantic slave trade generated enormous profits by classifying groups of human beings as commodity objects. What reflections on humans' relationships with objects and the natural world do you explore in your work? And what consequences might these reflections have for our understanding of contemporary society? So that's the heavy question. And let's go in reverse order this time. So Basil.
Well, as I pointed out, those the site that we were visiting in Inukai was part of a Shinto shrine. And a lot of the roots of puppetry in Awaji still are. There are still a lot of religious and Shinto services that are provided with puppetry. And so there's this space that puppetry obviously occupies, and Shinto is in many ways an animist religion where there's the sense of spirits in the trees, in the rocks, in the water, in everything has a spirit. And obviously puppeteers, without even knowing it, are attuned to that worldview that has, as Nick was speaking to, empathy, a sense of empathy, but to have a sense of empathy also for a rock or a piece of wood is I don't know, I think it's actually more of what the world could use right now. And puppeteers seem to just do it. They're born that way. And anyway, I just feel like the Dogu Gayashi in its sort of relationship and that sort of puppetry in Japan in its sort of ritual relationship to Shinto and animism is a sort of response to that.
Okay, thank you. All right, Martian.
Could you repeat the last sentence of the question, please?
Yes. Okay, so what reflections on humans' relationships with objects and the natural world do you explore in your work? And what consequences might these reflections have for our understanding of contemporary society?
Great. I think that there's a it's possibly a misunderstanding, or maybe it just is the Heisenberg principle of quantum physics that the witness like actually affects the molecule that it's observing. And so I think with puppetry, it's really important to consider the audience and the witness, and that changes what even is considered an object. Because if you think about like the human body, there's like a heart and eyeballs and hair and a brain and fascia and like, but those are all separate objects in our mind. Or even just a city, you could think of individual buildings or the entire city. So I think that the witness's perception of the thing like actually affects the thing that it's looking at. Anything else, or is that good enough?
Oh no, that's
okay,
great. That's really great. Okay, so then we're coming to Nick.
My mind is a jumble. I think I actually, I don't know, like on an ontological level, but on an experiential level, I buy Descartes' like subject object distinction. I just think that he makes a really ascientific, and maybe it was justified at the time, but the idea that it would stop at humans is what is wild. I'm not sure that spirit infuses everything. I think it's fun to imagine that it does. I sort of sense that it does, but I am like very confident that humans are not the only beings with the lights on. It would be so strange if all those other creatures that seem to experience pleasure and pain are automata, and then all of a sudden there was this like moment in evolutionary history that just happens to be us, where all of a sudden there's a there, or it's the famous Thomas Nagel essay, What is it like to be a bat, right? You can ask the question, what is it like to be a dog? What is it like to be a chimpanzee? What is it like to be a fish, right? And maybe it's like something to be a rock, and maybe it's like something to be a building. And I think that's like a fruitful creative space to live. But I think the onus is on us to say, why wouldn't it be like something to be a chimpanzee? Franz de Waal, the primatologist, said that it's long been a scientific taboo to endow animals with human emotion But if we do not, we risk missing something fundamental about both animals and us. And so that's what my work is largely about.
Great, thank you. All right, so I gave you some space, Maria, to think, so you can bring us home on this one.
So you sent us like the card saying that being able to speak is the highest form, and I feel like that is so backwards, as language can be misinterpreted so easily, like through text message. It could seem like offensive, or you need emojis, you need to show the emotion of the words, and to put like words as the top, it's like beyond that. I would say it's understand like emotional intelligence, or even like telepathy. Like humans have languages, they can't even communicate. We have separate languages. We can't even just like communicate with someone of a different language. Mm-hmm. Like, but with animals, they can just feel you. They can feel your fear. They can feel your worry, and then they use that to your advantage, or not. Or like crystals or trees, they already hold such a grounding that humans have lost and have given up to. I feel like the mind, and to say like the mind knows best. But within pneumonia, the main characters are a brain and a heart. And when I look at like the 1% versus the 99%, I would say we have been trained to focus on the head more than the body, and then it's just like showing face and being this surface, and like professionalism, and denying the needs of like what we really want, who we truly want to be, for like money, or for this it's like a head without a body, when really we have been destroying our bodies and not listening to what we truly need here. Like this is the people, this is the world. And where am I going? Yeah. Okay, there it is. That's enough. Is that enough?
That's great. That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me check in with the crew and see if there are any questions coming in from the chat. If you all can paste that into a chat message to me, and I can read it out, or we can see if there are any hands up, and if anybody wants to open their camera and pose a question.
Hi, Paulette, we have a question coming through Howl Round. This is from Kate, and Kate is asking, first of all, there's so many people watching from all over the world, and they're so excited about what's been presented today, so brilliant. And Kate is asking about COVID. How has that affected your processes? Of course, a big question at this time, but how is COVID affecting what you're making and how you're working at this point?
Okay, so I'm not going to assign this time. I'll let the panelists jump in where they're ready. So who wants to take that on first?
I'll go.
Okay, great.
I feel like COVID has helped my art, because my job closed, so then I had more time to work on my art and just focus on the art. And I feel like because everything is shutting down, because the systems are collapsing, we are realizing that we have given too much energy and too much power to someone else, and it's time to give it back to ourselves. So it's like rebuilding the self and just going within, because the outer world reality is just like we all see it. We all see how it's all messed up. So it's like using the art to remind of that. Yes, things are crumbling, but it is only making space for what needs to really grow for the benefit of all people.
Excellent. Who else?
I think it's Martian. I think it's accelerated the development of the piece in some way, because there was so much uncertainty and so many variables that I was like, well, like all I can really control is what I can prepare and the performance. And I really wanted my director to come for the whole week, but that's not how shows happen when they're touring. And so like that's accelerated. Like now I'm in a place where we're gonna do it on Zoom, the directing part. And so, I mean, but that's where it should be, like when it's touring, like the director doesn't necessarily have to be there. And then just because there were so many variables, I feel like it's better prepared because I feel like anything could happen at any moment. So so there's that aspect. And then also just as an artist, it was nice to not have to be relevant like every 5 seconds for a couple years and to just go to residencies and make work and not have to tell people about it and just to develop. So I think it's not just me. I think other people are going to be producing some really interesting stuff that they had time to gestate on in the last couple years.
Excellent. Okay. Go ahead, Basil. You look like you're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's not been great. It also has been, of course, there's been, some wonderful things that have come out of this time. And I was lucky to get to work a lot last year. And I was astounded by how a project that I was working on that went to be presented virtually was seen by so many people. So that blew my mind. At the same time, I had another project that was just canceled because of COVID. So, it made me, I didn't realize how much it meant to me, really. And when something's taken away, how much you appreciate it. So it is a real hardship. It basically, it sucks, it's for sure. And I just have a funny anecdote that someone was interviewing me, clueless about puppetry. And they were saying, some notable publication, you'd think they'd be smarter. And they said, well, you must be getting a lot of work right now because of COVID, because, people will be more comfortable working with puppets instead of people. And I was like, what are you thinking? There are people involved in puppetry. They thought that I would suddenly be in higher demand because of COVID, because people would be working with puppets. And in fact, no, a lot of the puppetry that we do takes even more people working in close proximity together. So it's just funny, people's perception of puppetry and that there's people involved and how COVID pushed people to somehow have some crazy assumption that puppetry was going to be the solution. So it's been hard, I would say. It's not great. And although it's amazing to be in these virtual spaces and to get so used to them now, it is amazing now to be in person with people and to have that connection. We're really appreciative so much of those things that we were taking for granted.
Okay, Nick?
Yeah, I think it's just revamped the sense of preciousness in the positive sense, being in a room with real people, being live together. I mean, it's something that took for granted, and was able to co-create a show during the pandemic in spite of COVID. And it just felt like so lucky and tenuous and scary, but valuable because of its tenuous nature. I'm jealous and I admire artists who feel like sort of inspired by this time. I feel largely unmoored by it, but I'm hopeful that coming out of it, if there isn't out of it, I'll just be that much more grateful to make live theater.
Okay. Excellent. So do we have another question?
Yes, Paulette, here on Howl Round, we have Jeannie, who wants to hear the panelists talk about their collaborators and their process. She says, each of you artists have created such amazing worlds unique to your own personalities. Can you talk a little bit about the people who have helped you get there?
Excellent. Who wants to take that one first?
I'll start. I'll just say I particularly acknowledge my Japanese composer collaborator, Yumiko Tanaka. She was an amazing partner as soon as she's also has a puppetry bent besides being a musician, a fierce musician. So, but she came with me to all of these places to Inukai, to see these screens, to these sort of discovery of, of this sort of the ruins of a tradition. So, and of course, having a Japanese partner in that was, so important for me. So, and then the puppeteers who worked with me, they feel such ownership over this, like, that was particularly Jessica Scott, who was there from the beginning, Felipe Rodriguez Jorda and Kate Brem and David Ajala and Oliver Dazel. They all were part of, there's a lot of people, there's always a lot of people it takes to make things happen, and this incredible ownership they feel about, this precious flame that we're holding, that we're bringing and sharing. Takes a village to do all this work.
Great. All right, who else?
Oh, I have met, I would say I meet Asian or Asian American artists, and I say, come, how can you help me work? And whenever when we come together, or for my cast of New Moni, it feels like a family. Everyone takes care of each other, one unified body. It's so fun. We all play so well, and everyone, like Basil says, they all care. They all care for the mission and for the product to be delivered in the best way to the audience, but while having fun. And we do like yoga, warm-ups, or like chakra alignments. Like we all vibe under the same frequencies. So that's always a pleasure. I love you all, my cast. Shout out to my cast.
Great. All right, next.
I kind of don't know where to start. With how important all the collaborators were. I mean, this piece would just not be what it is without each of their individual, both nameable and ineffable contributions. The team of puppeteers, Andy Menjek, Rowan McGee, Emma Wiseman, as well as some really talented folks that worked on versions of it before, are, like Maria was saying, like a family. We've worked on a lot of projects together. We're kind of a de facto ensemble at this point, and there's a lot that goes unspoken in terms of the way they're able to work together that is really special as a collective. And Kate Marvin, the sound designer, was able to do this like incredible combination of offering novel ideas that I could not have possibly thought of, and delivering exactly what I asked for when I had clarity, and somehow making that indistinguishable, such that like at this point it all feels like one thing. And the same goes for Marika Kent, the lighting designer. There's this Brian Eno quote about artists as gardener, like someone who sort of sets the conditions for things to flourish, rather than artist as architect, someone who lays down every single precise line. And I think it's both, but I'm really fond, especially in the generating side of things, like before things get refined, of the sort of gardening process where you set the conditions for play, and all these different minds collectively are able to make something that no single person could do by themselves. I got a good team.
Did you want to add anything, Martian?
I love my team. I could cry, but I had my tear ducts removed. For this iteration, Michelle Spears, the director, is amazing. She's really more than a director. She's the advocate for the story. Eli Presser made this short show tourable. I had so much fun working with Becca Kesson, the sound designer, who made it like a radio play that I can take with me and run anywhere without puppets. And then there's some people on the team here that I'm new to that I'm sure will be awesome, like Fletcher and Jacob Snodgrass and Yao from Lynx Hall, and then the people at the O'Neill Puppet Conference from the beginning, just to bounce ideas, and the people that watched videos of like people fucking amusement park rides with me like early on in the beginning that encouraged me to make stuff. And it's a solo show, but there's so many like builders, and Felix Kamchung, the Cantonese language coach for that one moment. And what else? The audience really is a collaborator. We send out surveys. They tell us about inanimate objects they have special connections to, from the possessions of deceased people to sex toys to objects that emit light. So really like everybody. Not everyone in the world, but I just mean everyone in my sphere.
Okay, great. So if I'm not mistaken, this session ends at noon, which is 2 minutes from now. And I am instructed to talk up the next session, which does that start at 1:30 or 2? In any case,
It's at 1:30.
It starts at 1:30, so it'll be in the same spot on Howl Round. And we will be excited to see you not only there, but next Saturday. We have 2 more of these sessions coming. I have one final question in the chat from Myra Sue. If you would like to open your mic and ask it succinctly, and then Maria can answer it succinctly, we will be on our way home. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try my best. Well, first, it's really exciting to have you in person, Maria. I saw your performance live streamed for New Moni, so it's really cool that you're here in Chicago. But anyway, I'll try to keep this short. But I'm really intrigued that you are exploring this universe across many different forms: comics, live performance, and fashion. So I'm curious to hear, like, what aspects of the universe do you find that maybe better suits, or that is easier to convey in comics form versus live performance, or what kind of interesting overlaps you've been seeing across the different mediums? Yeah, I'll try to keep it short.
Well, that's a great question. Nice to see ya. I would say the comics create like the ground plan of the world, and when there are more fundings, then that can be completely translated in the theater. It would be fun to just put it up, make that whole thing an actual set. I feel like it's like everyone is looking into these different worlds through different ways, like different pockets, and they're just like bringing them into everyone's attention. Oh, well, that has nothing to do. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, crew. Thank you, Howl Round audience. Thank you, Chicago International Puppet Theater Festival audience in the Zoom room. Thank you, Blair Thomas. Thank you, Universe. And that concludes the program.
If you would like to join the Aricama Liberation Nation Cooperation Community, you can visit patreon.com/themaricama.